Peace and blessings. Hey, y'all. Come on in. Come on in. Thank you for coming through. Appreciate your presence. Let's go. Let's go. If you hit that like button on the way in, be fully appreciated, or the dislike button, even though I ain't even got started yet. But just hit one. I appreciate y'all. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting topic. Hopefully it's not super saturated. I know a lot of people have gone over the Michelle Obama podcast. However, just kind of entertaining different perspectives and getting different feedback, a variety of opinions. I think it promotes critical thinking. Just my opinion, right? And definitely a lot of people have seen it, so might as well make it a point of discussion. So peace and blessings. We got Cutting Edge in the building. Thank you for coming on through. We got DT peeking. Yes, come on in. Come on in. Appreciate you typing in the chat. We do have a goal that started. There's memberships available. Definitely ways to support the channel. Any way would be greatly appreciated. Definitely from the heart. Thank you so much in advance. Let's see. We got Felicia Fee in the building. Thank you for coming on through. And we got the beautiful Selena coming on through the building as well with the super chat. The first support super chat of the stream. Support, and support. Thank you, beautiful. I appreciate you. Thank you kindly. Yes, indeed. So I want to start off, first of all, by saying I hope everybody's had a great day today, that they're having a great weekend. There's some productivity, some positivity, some goal-oriented mindsets, even if it's just for the day. It doesn't have to be long-term. The goals can be small. They can be digestible in bite-sized pieces. It seems to go down a little bit smoother that way, right? So I just want to start off by saying that. And I love to laugh. Anybody that knows me, I absolutely love to laugh. And I've been, going through some content and been coming across some real comical, funny, inspiring little clips here. Now, if anybody knows about I think it was my last live stream, a little fun fact is I love me some David Banner, okay? So not trying to run the men off or nothing. It's going to be a short clip. But I just thought that this was absolutely endearing, hilarious, and I love a man with self-confidence. Now, I think there's a fine line between cockiness and self-confidence. However, I would rather it tip the scale more towards being more confident than not, right? So this is just mine, and I'm just going to show it because I thought this was hilarious. Let's go, y'all.
It's really important, especially for our own to know. Absolutely. Come on, David Banner.
Can I curse one time?
Yeah, I
actually think I am the sexiest motherfucker on this planet.
I know that's right.
I hate Prince died, but it did open up the door for me to take that throne that he left.
Okay.
The sexiest motherfucker right here.
Right here, live.
Plus again today.
All right. Now, here we go, David Banner. What made you really...
He couldn't have did that in front of me. I'm just saying. She trying to keep her composure. She trying to keep her cool. She didn't see that one coming. I can tell. But she is really coming off as cool as a cucumber, probably more than most that would have been caught in that situation and especially caught off guard. But listen. Selena, don't even start. Some chocolate, especially some confident chocolate that got the right to be confident. Okay, so I'm going to stop. I digress. Let's go.
Oh, the camera.
Okay, good.
Now,
do me a favor really quick.
Of course.
Close your eyes.
Maybe.
Close your eyes for a second. A lot of times people are used to mortals and they don't get an opportunity to see something that vibrates this high, open your eyes again. Bow. Probably the closest thing you'll get to God. That happened.
Y'all see that?
How you want to laugh? That's hilarious. Y'all should see them in the back like this guy's.
Wait a minute. We just gonna slide past the part when he told her to close her eyes. She didn't contemplate it. She didn't slow down. She didn't give him a little look on the side eye, like, why you want me to do this? She did none of that. Them eyes blinked closed just as quick as he said it. I want to see that part again. Boy, flattery. Oh my gosh. It is powerful.
Open your eyes again. Bow.
Okay, hold on.
Used to mortals, and they.
Of course.
Close your eyes.
Maybe.
Close your eyes for a second.
Now,
Do me a
Prince.
favor really quick.
Of course.
Close your eyes.
Maybe.
Close your eyes for a second. A lot of times, people are used to mortals, and they don't get an opportunity to see something that vibrates this high. Open your eyes again. Bow. Probably the closest thing you'll get to God. That happened.
Y'all see that?
How you want to laugh? That's hilarious. Y'all should see them in the back like this guy's a lot.
And I really closed my eyes too. Did you do that to anyone
Yes,
else?
you
Don't
did.
worry about that.
No, because I am
You gotta
now.
concentrate on yourself, man.
Anyway.
See, she knew that he had caught her in a moment. She knew that cool as a cucumber and as cool as a fan response. When them eyes went close, she already knew. I ain't mad at you, sister. I ain't mad at you at all. But she wanted to know, listen, is this just me that you doing this with? And he like, don't even worry about all that. That's not necessary because we're talking about the here and the now. Yes.
It happened to you. Enjoy yourself.
Anyway,
We said we was gonna have fun.
we did. And it is fun.
Oh, I thought that was adorable. Thank you for experiencing that with me. I listen. It just touched me. It touched me in a funny way, in an endearing way, and I just love me some David Banner. So yeah. Anyway, we got CC in the building. Thank you for the support. Appreciate you, CC. Thank you kindly, and thank you for coming through. You said Selena say she mad. You mad at her? We hating a little bit, just a tad bit. You can't be mad at her. Your day may come, especially the way you ain't got no reservations with asking for interviews. So if the opportunity presents itself, I don't see that being an impossibility. Miss Selena. You just never know. You never know. Thank you again, CC, for the blessing. Appreciate you so much. So, y'all, let's get off into the content. Again, appreciate y'all coming through. Thank you so much for coming through and with the support, typing in the chat, and all of that. So, as we know, there has been a lot of humbug buzz around Michelle Obama's new podcast, right? So this last episode that she did, I guess the name of the podcast is IMO. I don't know if that stands for in my opinion or not, but it just seems that way. It hasn't been confirmed, but Michelle Obama candidly discussed her decision to skip Donald Trump's second inauguration. Now, we know that there ain't no love lost and there's not a sense of fondness between the two. So, I don't know how hard of a decision that was when it came to the actual event and missing that event and opting not to go. However, she actually emphasized in this episode that the choice for her not to go to the inauguration was a personal act of self-care and not indicative of marital issues or political affiliations and statements. Okay. She was very candid about that. She reiterated that throughout the podcast, and she went into depth as to why she substantiates that belief in that statement and that explanation of her not going. So this decision of hers reflects a broader theme in her recent discussions, right? like the importance of setting personal boundaries, prioritizing one's well-being, especially after years of public service and what she considers to be personal sacrifice, right? So now I know a lot of times we look at consider the source, with this last political campaign for presidency, she did not win a lot of people over there. She still has a lot of in-depth support. However, there was a lot of, onlookers that were kind of like, now you stretching it, especially when it came to co-signing and advocating for the previous female candidate running for presidency. Okay. However, we definitely want to be intentional and open-minded about chew the meat and spit out the bones. That's what, let's just keep it a buck. Okay. Chew the meat and spit out the bones. If it just because our belief systems or our opinions may not align with something that someone else says, something someone else says does not mean that they don't have any value to offer, that they don't have anything to say that could be agreed upon, that could make sense, that could have some logical foundational backing to it, right? So we just want to keep that in mind. So thank y'all for coming on in again, whether you're catching this live or on the replay. Today we probably gonna touch a nerve or two when it speaks on the balance between traditional roles as a wife and mother versus prioritizing self-care. And of course, this is sparked by none other than Michelle Obama's bold choices. So we'll explore both sides, why self-prioritization is important, but also why some people feel like she is moving away from traditional values expected typically of a wife, of a mother, of a former first lady. All of those things except the wife of her husband. Still, her children are grown, her daughters are adults. Her role as a former first lady is not active, hasn't been for some time. And so she is, I think she just turned 61, or she is currently 61 years of age, and she is really coming into a different stage of her life, and she's getting some pushback for it because she is vocal and outwardly prioritizing herself at this stage of her life. Now, I'm going to speak from a mother's perspective, right? Now, a mom's perspective, I don't think that job ever goes away. I just don't. I think that the roles of the position shift, but once you give birth or once you assume, the responsibility of raising a new life and bonding with that life, it doesn't go anywhere. It just doesn't. There's going to forever be an alliance to that relationship. So when it comes to that, to me, it's always sacrificial. Okay. It's just different levels of sacrifice, in my personal opinion. So I want to give respect to her in that aspect. Lover or not, her journey has impacted a lot of people across the world. Being in her former role as First Lady, she was exposed to different world powers, world leaders in spaces that most people don't get to go in their lifetimes, which means that has exposed her to a lot of different areas and environments that we probably wouldn't understand. And today's discussion is about the broader conversation that she has sparked. And at the top of that list is the power and importance of choosing self-care. Now, I would like to let's start off by playing a clip of hers where she speaks on how she feels like she's been trodden and beat down as a result of being the first lady and what came with that, especially when you're speaking of her husband being the first and only African-American president, quote unquote, in this country, in the United States of America, and all can imagine, the nature of how prevalent racism still is in the evolution of this country, all of these centuries later. And now we are at a point where we have an African-American or a man that is considered Black being appointed and elected as leader of the free world. Okay. So with that, we're going to go ahead and listen to what she had to say.
I think that's why it's important for us at tables like this, for women like us who do have a platform to talk openly about the challenges that we face, not because we are complaining, which we don't want to ever be complaining, but because we need to change. We need to turn that cycle on its head. Yes. And we have to talk about our stresses openly, And also as Black women, we are so easily labeled as angry and bitter. And let me tell you some of the most hurtful stuff that I experienced, entering this life of public service at the heights that we entered into was during my husband's presidential campaign. And just me telling the truth of who we were, just humanizing him as a man, saying he's a great man, but he's not perfect. He's got his foibles and his flaws, trying to humanize him. The first thing that some female journalist said was that I was bitter. I was emasculating him just by sort of trying to tell the truth about what life is, right?
So the only issue that I would have with that, or the only question that I would pose with that, is while you were trying to bring to the forefront and humanize your husband, who was at that time the president of the United States, pretty much first, whether she liked it or not, that was his primary role before everything else, at least for the 8 years that he was in office. Did you humanize yourself? Did you bring your own foibles, as she said, or flaws to the forefront as much as you did with your husband? Because all of the memories that I have and all of the, actually being alive and a full-grown adult, being engaged and invested at that time, I witnessed the endearment and the love publicly shown to her, how affectionate, how he always made her presence the top priority, no matter what setting they were in, no matter what venue, who they were around. There were times he would look at her like they were the only two in the room. And I'm going to show a clip where he actually acknowledged her, not just publicly, but vocally, and he celebrated her because he wanted her to understand that I know that you've made sacrifices. And I also know that you didn't sign up for this, that you didn't ask for this, but you did sign up by default by being my wife. But, I celebrate you. I appreciate you. But I just want to know, was it an equal playing ground when it came to you accentuating and putting your husband up there, and not saying that there's anything wrong with transparency or truth. However, there's a scale and a balance that's required for a reason, so people can actually at least relate on both sides without veering the conversation as to it being imbalanced. And now you're being accused of being a feminist, or you're, like she said, accused of emasculating your husband, and all of these other things. Not that you can control anybody else has to say. However, it definitely can set the stage for those types of responses if you're not careful.
And then you get labeled as angry, because you talk forcefully or passionately about something, even if it's in the context of great joy and pride. That the first label they put on us as Black women is that we are angry. And you know, the irony is like, yeah, I am probably less liked than many of my white female friends. I see that.
Less
Less
liked.
liked.
Not
You know,
liked.
light. L-I-G-H-T. Because
Okay, so I saw Kwame's live yesterday, and he had an interesting response to when she made this statement about being around her counterparts and around her white female friends, and how her disposition is what she called less light, right? And you know, Taraji and her brother were like, can you clarify a little bit, basically trying to get her to say, listen, what does that mean? And so she was very specific, and she said, I think I feel more burdened by the world than they do. I think she could have given a little more clarification, because that could be like a pause moment, right? It could be interpreted as several different things, right? However, we can't ignore the fact that there is a certain sense and burden of responsibility that is attached. Like she said, there is a stigma when it comes to angry, bitter Black women, when it comes to angry, bitter baby mamas. Baby mamas are addressed more culturally to Black women and Black mothers than it is in any other race. All of these negative connotations, when words have power, if they are incorporated into the regular vernacular of conversation and it's normalized, it's like it just rolls off the tongue. Nobody questions it. Nobody, goes for correction on it. Recognizing that words do have power, these things are going to land into the subconscious, and before you know it, it becomes a cultural norm, right? So we can't skip that. We can't just gloss over that like it does not exist. And there are a lot of times where Black women will get that same energy from their counterparts of men. Now, we can flip that same coin on the other side. That's for another conversation. I just want to recognize it as being a situation where it can be reciprocated and the same rules can apply to a man feeling that way about his woman. But we are speaking of women, Black women in particular, being associated with seriousness, bitterness, angry, competitive, narcissistic, things that do not align with the core family foundational principles, right? So we have to keep those things in mind. We can't just gloss over them as if they are minute. And I think that has been one of her points and her talking points in wanting to get the message across, is that just because I make the decision to choose me, whether it's in my 60s, whether she's sacrificed a majority of her adult life for everybody else around her. So now in the ripe and seasoned age of 60, she's very transparent by saying, this is where I am. This is how I feel. And before I leave this earth, this is what I hope to experience, because I know what all of that other stuff feels like. I know what all of that other stuff looks like. So shout out to the chat. Hey, Lonnie. Well, I heard you are a fresh new grandmother. Congratulations to you, Glammy. Listen, we're going to call you Glammy, Glamma, whatever, if you're not offended. Yeah, we don't do grandmas too much anymore. That just seems so antiquated. So don't shoot me for saying it, but that's just my personal opinion, right? So we got Strawberry 10 in the building. Appreciate y'all. And if I missed you, charge it to my head and not my heart. And let's go.
I say this a lot. I mean, I see the difference in some of my white female friends. I see a lightness, an ability to be in the world and see what's going on, but still be not as burdened about it as I think I am. You know, I think that what I see happen in the news, you know, the assault on immigration rights, the challenges that face our community, the inequality, I think it burns at me in a different way.
Because it affects you.
Yeah.
It affects your children.
Yeah.
It affects you.
Yeah. So imagine.
So, you know, when it comes to the word burden, when self-care looks like abandonment to some, I think there's a lack of distinction sometimes, because it's now that women are becoming more vocal and more open about the topic, and the lines, I believe, are becoming skewed, because I believe that there is a delicate balance between you can be a traditional woman and exercise self-care. Why can't you do both? I'm at a loss for that. Why do you have to choose one or the other? Now, I will say, because we're gonna definitely segue and transition off into her giving her thoughts and her reasons for skipping the Trump inauguration. Now, I've got my feelings on that. And because of the nature of her position and her husband's position in this world and the parts that they've played in it, I believe she should have went to the inauguration. There are so many other ways where you could have exercised self-care, major statement, known, and I'm gonna say why. I'm gonna say why, and it's gonna be this next clip that we watch, and I want you to watch it with me.
Michelle. Michelle LaVaughn Robinson, girl of the South Side. For the past 25 years, you have not only been my wife and mother of my children, you have been my best friend. You took on a role you didn't ask for, and you made it your own, with grace and with grit and with style and good humor. You made the White House a place that belongs to everybody. And a new generation sets its sights higher because it has you as a role model. You have made me proud, and you have made the country proud.
Now, I'm going to say, I haven't seen any other sitting presidents give that kind of acknowledgement to their wives. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I haven't seen it. Yes, he said her whole name. He said her entire name. Now, as a former first lady, I've always felt like she represented more than just herself. Again, he said, this is not a role that you signed up for. But through her tenure of being first lady, I saw nothing short of her symbolizing and exhibiting dignity, resilience, as well as leadership, right? Those are just my personal opinions. Now, I know it's a tightrope. I was I would say I was taken aback a bit, and I was also a bit disappointed during this last campaign. I thought that whoever spoke for that side, for the liberal side, backing old girl, I felt there was an agenda being pushed. That's just my personal opinion. I felt there was a lack of authenticity, and it made me question some things. But I can't submit for other people to chew the meat and spit out the bones if I don't do it for myself. So I definitely understand, and I acknowledge that he definitely has publicly over and over and over again, whether some people, particularly men, may look at him as being emasculated by her, or that he just loves his wife, and he, behind closed doors, their lives are going to tell a story that we will never know, that we will never be privy to. We definitely have to acknowledge that, and we have to be aware of that. So with that being said, when you speak of the balancing act, right? She speaks on being a wife, a mother, a public figure, and all of those things have required nothing short of sacrifice. But at what cost? Is her reflecting and speaking out about it now publicly? Is it her being bitter? Is it her having regret? Or is it her just acknowledging her truth? What she's done, where she's been, what she's given, how much of her has she given? And then now she's blessed, because to me, to live beyond 60 with all of the things that are trying to take everybody out, even though she is a former first lady with a lot of access and resources that most of us are not privy to. However, when it's your time, it's your time. But not to belabor the point, if she's in her 60s and she is just now saying, okay, this is what I need, this is where I need to be in my life at this point. And in order for me to own it and to step in it and to be authentic to myself, I need to express this. And she chose her platform to do that in. And that should not be an issue. However, yet to some, she did not and does not and has not, to a lot of people, been looking as if she is holding same to those traditional values that she has absolutely exemplified through her image and through her behavior and through her role in being Barack Obama's wife. Where do we go from here? How does she make her peace in order to seek a different level of peace that didn't align with her duties and her sacrifice as a wife, as a former first lady, as a mother, as an educator? Because she did educate while she was in the capacity of the White House with her family. Right? So definitely want to just make those points. Now, in order for her to do that, she's had to face the challenge of saying no. And she discussed the difficulty that many women face in declining obligations due to expectations of society. Now, she emphasized that learning to say no is a vital skill for maintaining personal health and authenticity. And that can be a lesson that can be taught and learned and exhibited by everybody in many different situations from any angle. The power of no is and can be astounding, and it can be a complete sentence. No means I'm not talking about this anymore. That is my final answer. We cannot discount the power of that. And if that's why it's so difficult for a lot of people to say it, because it's so absolute. It's so final, or it should be final. So let's listen to her in her explanation as to why she skipped the inauguration. Let's go, y'all.
Because somebody was going to doubt me. Somebody was already telling me why I couldn't do something before they knew me or I even tried. So you get, and I don't think this is unique to just women of color. I don't think it's just unique to men. But when you get in that habit of that constant striving and constant proving that, it's enough, it makes us overachievers, but you don't ever turn that off. Mm-hmm. And at 60, I had to convince myself that I had done enough. After all that I had done in the world, I still felt a guilt, right? Struggling with like deep guilt that maybe I needed to do a little bit more. So I'm at this stage in life where I have to define my life on my terms for the first time. So what are those terms? And going to therapy,
she said for the first time, she's 61 years old. What does that look like? Is that at a point where, based off of maybe some's opinions, that's too late for her to be at this stage in her life? Why now? Why would she take her 60s to make such drastic alterations in her psyche, in her psychological makeup, in her lifestyle, in her thinking? Could that have benefited her prior to now? Do we know? Do we have an opinion on that? But when she said that, it kind of struck a chord with me, and I'll tell you why. Me being in my seasoned age, and not too far, not terribly far away from her age, there comes a certain level of awakening and shift once you get to that season. At least I will say overall, maybe not for everybody, because everybody's different. I have to always make that disclaimer. However, if you have a discussion with many seasoned age women, in a lot of them, you will get similar responses. And there comes a time where, okay, you've raised the children, you've made the sacrifice for your families. If you have a significant other long term, you've made sacrifices for the relationship, you've made concessions, you've had to meet people halfway, and you do it so much that it becomes naturally innate in you. So a lot of times you don't even realize you're doing it until it's not required of you anymore. You're an empty nester. Your children have transitioned on and moved on with their lives in their purpose. And now here you are, maybe you're retired, or you are shifting into a more liberal place to where your schedule is more free. And you're just in a different place. Not to mention you've got wisdom, life experiences up under your belt. If you're in your right sound mind, you can always pull from those experiences in order to incorporate them in the here and now to make decisions that best suit you. I don't personally believe that it's ever too late. I believe that she is using her voice in order to say, this may not be your path, but this is where I am. I stand in it, and I'm being as raw, as open, right, wrong, or indifferent as I can be in where I am now and how I articulate that, if that makes any sense. Let's continue.
To work all that out. Like, what happened that 8 years that we were in the White House? What did that do to me?
Yes.
Internally, my soul, we made it through. We got out alive. I hope we made the country proud. My girls, thank God, are whole. But what happened to me?
Right.
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 And going through therapy, is getting me to look at the fact that maybe finally I'm good enough. Right. And unlearning some of those messages that I've been saying to myself, and then trying to actively practice something different to rewire those neurons in my head that make me keep pushing and keep striving. And so practicing no in a very different way intentionally. But then this is what makes it hard because, my decision to skip the inauguration, what people don't realize, or my decision to make choices at the beginning of this year that suited me were met with such ridicule and criticism. Like people couldn't believe that I was saying no for any other reason, that they had to assume that my marriage was falling apart.
Right.
It's like, while I'm here really trying to own my life and intentionally practice making the choice that was right for me. And it took everything in my power to not do the thing that was right, or that was perceived as right, but do the thing that was right for me. That was a hard thing for me to do. I had to basically trick myself out of it. And it started with not having anything to wear. I mean, I had affirmatively, because I'm always prepared for any funeral, anything. I walk around with the right dress. I travel with clothes just in case something pops off. So I was like, if I'm not going to do this thing, I got to tell my team, I don't even want to have a dress ready. Right? Because it's so easy to just say, let me do the right thing.
But then you become a shock absorber.
Yeah.
And that's what women are.
Yeah.
Shock absorbers.
Yeah.
And that's exhausting. And it's not healthy.
Yeah.
It's exhausting, but I don't necessarily agree. I think as long as it is in moderation, because I truly believe that God never gives us more than we can handle. A lot of people can't handle certain positions and certain levels of elevation in their life. Therefore, they don't get to elevate because they are not equipped to handle it. And I remember as a child, I used to always say, in my prayer incorporate verbiage to God, always say, please don't give me something I'm not ready for. Whatever my blessing is, prepare me and equip me to be able to handle it. Because I don't want to get the blessing and then lose it because I wasn't ready. Right? And I believe that as women, we are some of the strongest vessels on this earth as far as a species, because we are able to handle. Now, should we? Probably not, and not as much as we do. But God gave us the ability to withstand a lot for a reason, just like men were created and equipped to handle certain things that women can't even process or relate to. They have their role, they have their assignments, and we have ours. So I agree with Taraji to an extent that if you are a shock absorber, if we were equipped to handle that, maybe not on a consistent basis, or maybe not as a way of life, but there are going to be times that we are going to have to absolutely be a buffer. We are going to have to be the one to calm down, to be the sense of logic, just like a man is. That's why there's that balance in a male and female relationship. But I just wanted to add that this clip is almost over.
It is not healthy. You've had to be shock absorbers for your husband, for your children, for your mom, for your family, your loved ones, because of where you were sitting in the public eye. That's not fair to you. When do you ever get to live for you? I applaud you. I'm happy that you are taking care of yourself in the way that you need to.
Now that comes from a woman that isn't married, has not been married, doesn't have the experience or the same correlation in her story that Michelle Obama has. They come from two totally different backgrounds. They've incorporated two totally different roads in their lives. And so I understand Taraji speaking from the place that she is, but to be honest, I'm not really sure if she's the most qualified she says, okay, well, I believe that I'm happy for you. I believe that this is good for you. I believe that you should be at this place, even if it is at this point in your life. And though her opinion may be respected, honestly, it's like, okay, well, if you can't really relate to why she's here outside of what she's given us, then maybe you're not as accurate, or maybe, again, it is just your opinion. And then, she can do what she will with it or not, right? That's just my take on it. Now, when self-care looks like abandonment to some, choosing yourself can sometimes be interpreted as abandoning responsibilities. And that's something that women challenge with. I know for me, when I have very, very few moments, but I have to be intentional about sitting down in quiet and doing nothing, whether it's meditating, whether it's catching a quick nap, whether it's just wanting silence. I don't want a computer in front of me. I don't want to hear a bunch of noise around me. I don't want to hear phones ringing. I don't want to hear TVs going. I don't want to hear music. I just want to sit in silence. I want to be intentional about that. I have to be intentional about that, right? But does that mean that I'm abandoning my responsibilities, or does that mean that I'm refilling my cup because I can't pour from an empty cup? Does it mean that I'm doing what is required for me to be in a position to be able to continue to give? I'm a giver. A lot of women are. There are, on a large scale, some people that's their love language. They give. That's how they feel good about themselves. That's their purpose. That makes them feel like they're fulfilling a purpose of being here. But you can't pour from an empty cup. And if you can't get it reciprocated in a relationship, then there are other ways to fill that cup. Tapping into that is important. Tapping into that is an option. We have to know it's an option. A lot of us aren't taught that. We're taught to move mechanically through this world with roles that we play, with roles that we serve, with required movements not to be judged by society as being a poor mother, because I have been so emotionally taxed and drained that nobody's noticed, because I haven't stopped long enough for anybody to notice. Or I smile through and you can't see my pain because I haven't stopped long enough for you to look to see if there's anything amiss. By sitting out of the inauguration, did she send a message that personal feelings outweigh duty? Again, I believe that she could have made a statement articulating what she wanted to articulate by missing Trump's inauguration. I believe that there should be, because I have traditional values, so I'm going to speak from a traditional place. I believe that there are certain situations, because of the world that we live in, that you should show a united front. You see what happened, not that I don't know if she cares or not, but the first thing people did was start to speculate that there was trouble in paradise, that, the one thing that people acknowledge them and know her and her husband for is that they love one another and that they are cohesive in their family. and it's authentic. So you don't show up. And it looked very awkward. It really did, for him to go in there by himself, and he handles it well and with demure. But it still stood out, and it still, in my opinion, spoke volumes. And it also left room for speculation from others to assume things. Now, at the end of the day, what you eat don't make me poo. But you got to know what comes with that when you make that decision, and prepare yourself for that. It's a tightrope. How much of yourself are you expected to give for the sake of an image? And it seems like because of that particular situation, she chose to send such a powerful message that she wanted to forego and to dispel and to shift how people perceive her and what image she should display, because she is no longer where she was when she was in the White House as the First Lady with 2 younger daughters, 4 formidable daughters. She is no longer at that place. She is in a different place, and she wants other people to recognize and to understand that it's okay for her to be in that place, no matter what message they felt she sent, no matter what they thought she should do, what decisions she should make. I believe that her decision to do that was like a cry to show that protecting your mental and emotional health is necessary. Again, you can't pour from an empty cup. We don't know what battles and what challenges she's had. And I'm giving her grace not because I don't agree with some of her decisions and her stances. We can all agree to disagree. But what I will say is that there are a lot of women that go through similar circumstances that either aren't taught, they haven't been given tools, the proper tools to be able to go through with grace, with some elegance, and come out on the other side without totally destroying and dismantling everything you know and everything you were taught up until that point. Now, at what cost does being a wife, a mother, and a public figure that requires sacrifice, what cost is this having, or is she paying to be extremely vocal and say, look, this is where I am, and I would appreciate it if y'all respect it? Now, I want to go to a clip real quick when Kwame responded. So I guess Pink Book Lessons, he reacted to her commentary in her video on Michelle Obama on this same topic. And I would like to give his perspective and then comment on what he had to say as well. Just to give a different perspective. We can all, again, agree to disagree. And the fact of the matter is that just like it's hard for women to speak on men and their positions because we are not men, we can go off of traditional values. We can go off of our incorporating our upbringing and our belief systems into what we think people should do, how we think people should handle situations. However, we also have to recognize that in order to receive grace, it's okay to give some. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the chat. Let's go.
Not as burdened about it as I think I am.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is, even black women who actually met Michelle Obama early on in 2007, 2008, before Barack Obama won the primary against Hillary, they realized early on that Michelle Obama wasn't likable at all. She was very rude behind the scenes and extremely nasty. But those women who noticed that and experienced that with her, they stayed loyal because there was a bigger goal at the time. They wanted to see her make history as the first black first lady with the first so-called black president. And we have to be honest, there is anger and bitterness inside of Michelle Obama. And she's doing just like Jada Pinkett, taking it all out on her husband. So no, it's not just a stereotype in this case.
Even Michelle Obama, I am still trying to tell myself that I am doing enough, right? Because there's always that feeling. I think we practice that striving because in order to be successful, I always felt like I had to be smarter, faster, work harder because somebody was going to doubt me. Somebody was always already telling me why I couldn't do something before they knew me or I even tried.
What is she talking about? You put all the stress on yourself to be this and that. Remember, your husband carried the family to...
Right. What the fuck are you talking about? You are the president's wife. She's trying to sound like she got a struggle. Like, God, Mary J. Blige, you done messed up a lot of black women, Mary J. Because a lot of these women, not all, a lot of these women want to have the struggle life. They want to have that struggle story. What the hell struggle story you got? You got service detail. You got goddamn Secret Service. You got a makeup team. You got a wardrobe team. You got every goddamn on thing afforded to you. And you trying to connect with the regular everyday chick that's struggling. What the hell is wrong with you?
So does that excuse her from having her own struggles, personal struggles, because she has all of these amenities that many don't have? Does it excuse her from being a woman that endures and goes through the same similar trials and tribulations of motherhood, of being a wife, of being a professional woman, of being such a public image and being so available to the public, and that being demanded of your role, that because you live a different type of lifestyle, does that exclude you from having to experience that lives? She still, look, some of the richest people are no longer with us because they've taken themselves out, which solidifies that money does not bring you happiness. How many times do we hear more money, more problems? It just brings you a different set of problems. There's a cost, there's a price, there's a reason why the more money you have, the more of a demand there is placed on you in that working capacity that's going to have to match what you're worth and what you're being paid. Trading time for money. It's just on a different level. Does that mean that we discount her because she financially is more privileged than a lot of other women? Now, I don't take away that there's validity to that. However, do we just totally discount it? Do we just totally act as if she does not have her own personal struggles? So much so that she is publicly announced that she's in therapy and has been in therapy, advocates for therapy. Again, we don't know what people go through behind the scenes. So I just wanted to give that perspective. I see where Pink Book Lessons is coming from. I even see where Kwame's coming from. I just think that when it comes to the fine line of accusing someone of being a feminist as opposed to exercising some self-care, I think that the lines could get skewed. There's a very delicate balance. And based on who you talk to and who you ask, you're going to get a different response and a different viewpoint on it. And that's okay. That's why we are called individuals. We're not all supposed to think the same, draw the same conclusions. No, even when you have a set of twins and they're raised in the same home by the same mother and father in the same environment, they still have their own journeys to navigate through. in order to become what? That individual. So the real question becomes, where do we draw the line between honoring tradition and honoring ourselves without being sent to the cross for it? Now, when it comes to her, I got to choose this delicately. I don't believe, I heard Pink Book Lessons say that she is in competition with her husband. Let's finish. I think it's on this clip. If not, it's on the next one, but they're both short.
Oh my, rich as you is, you trying to sound like you downtrodden and struggling with Obama. Now we know every relationship go through problems. You ain't got to tell us your personal business. Obama ain't out here talking about you. Every relationship, it seems like it's only certain women that go out and try to diss their husband. You don't think Obama got some shit he can say about you? He ain't on no podcast acting like he miserable with you. And I'm pretty sure it's times you made him miserable. Like,
now, I prefaced the live because I agree with that. Absolutely. When she said that the first journalist that responded to her once her husband was on the campaign to become a president-elect, she vocalized that he does have flaws, that he's not perfect. And she was called bitter. She was called angry. She was called judgmental. She was accused of being in competition with her husband instead of being a helpmate. And so I think that could have been dispelled a bit had she been as transparent about herself as she was about her husband. Again, that's my personal opinion, but I do agree that she and her husband have probably gone through periods, more than likely than not, in their marriage where they loved each other, but maybe they didn't like each other very much. Maybe they weren't agreeable in most things. Maybe they felt like that they were drifting apart. I couldn't imagine being married and being a first lady and having the world not just look upon you and place so much responsibility on your shoulders, but to have certain expectations and then judge you for them all. Feel vindicated and entitled enough to judge you because you knew what came with that position when you took it on. It's easy to sit on the outside looking in and say what a person should have done, how they should have responded, what they should have said, what they should have kept their mouth shut on. But have you even been in a similar situation to be able to speak on that effectively and coming from a neutral place? Right? So let's go to this next clip, this next short clip. And Kwame reacted to this one as well.
hell is wrong with you? Oh my, rich as you is, you trying to sound like you downtrodden and struggling with Obama. Now we know every relationship go through problems. You ain't got to tell us your personal business. Obama ain't out here talking about you. Every relationship, it seems like it's only certain women that go out and try to diss their husband. You don't think Obama got some shit he can say about you? He ain't on no podcast acting like he miserable with you. And I'm pretty sure it's times you made him miserable. Like, damn, man, you are not one of those struggle women, so stop it.
Where you are. Your job was to fall back and support him and assist him. Again, she's speaking from the feminist mindset that she's got to work so hard and do this and that. No, you actually didn't have to work at all after your husband became a Democrat superstar. Your job at that point was to look good, keep your hair done, and be everywhere he was or on some other mission representing him. That's it. Nobody expected you to do anything more than that. That's because the job of First Lady didn't require you to actually put the same work in as a regular woman who didn't have money, who didn't have.
Respectfully to Pink Book Lessons, but how does she know that? How did she know that the only thing that was required of Michelle Obama was to look pretty, to keep up her hair and nail appointments, to stay in the background and be quiet? I remember Michelle Obama having whole movements when she did the meals, the healthier meals in the school system. She went on tours with the dance off to get the kids active, and it transformed and transcended into adults becoming impressionable based off of her influence. She's always been in the forefront. Whenever you see Obama, you see her. She's not just on the sideline looking pretty. I'm just saying. I mean, I have my viewpoint. I respect everybody else's opinion. I lived through it. I witnessed it. And through my set of lenses, I saw something different. The conversation that is being had and the speculations that are being thrown around about her and the fragility of her marriage, or the possible and alleged fragility of her marriage, that was not even a point of conversation while he was in office. Now, granted, the world is a stage. You've got some really good actors and some really good actresses in life. But the objective is to convince you of something with no question. Or for you to pause the question, is this real? Is this true? Is this authentic? But you can't tell. How will we know? We go off of the information that we are being provided. We do our own due diligence, our research, draw our own conclusions, but there's a responsibility that comes with that. And I just personally don't believe that we have enough information to make such statements in regards to her behind the scenes, when, again, the world is a stage and they show us what they want us to see. True or not, why is it that, and how is it that we have all of this additional information? Now, I will say this. I was unaware, and I don't know the sources of Pink Book Lessons, because this is my first time hearing that behind the scenes that Michelle Obama, during, the time in the White House, she was insufferable to many. I've never heard that. I've always heard totally the opposite. What's done in the dark will come to the light. Just look at all of the different, we got Diddy, we got Shannon Sharp, we got all of, just to name a couple, all of these celebrities, all of these people on the main stage. There's a lot of things coming out from the background. So what always glitters isn't gold. I get that. However, in order to make such matter-of-fact statements, I think that there should be a little more validity and receipts to be able to kind of substantiate what's being said. That's just my opinion. Peace and blessings to the chat. Peace and blessings to the chat.
Access, who didn't have the help and assistance, or the man who got you all of that. It's just really annoying hearing her trying to act like she's got the same struggles of a single mom trying to work every day to support her children alone, or the struggles of a poor family or middle-class family living check to check. Like, no, this is not that.
So you can, and I don't think this is unique to just women of color. I don't think it's just unique to men. But when you get in that habit of that constant striving and constant proving that, it's enough, it makes us overachievers, but you don't ever turn that off. And at 60, I had to convince myself that I had done enough. After all that I had done in the world, I still felt a guilt, right? Struggling with deep guilt that maybe I needed to do a little bit more.
You do realize what she's struggling with, right? The real reason why she's battling to have to do more is because she's in competition with her husband, comparing herself to him, a man that was a 2-time president of the #1 country in the world. And again, it's feminism that even placed that thought in her head that she's got to be greater than him. The anything you can do, I can do better syndrome, the Jada Pinkett Smith syndrome, or the 𝘰𝘱𝘺 syndrome. It's all the same devil.
So I'm at this stage in life where I have to define my life.
I would like for those that believe that she is in competition with her husband to put a 1 in the chat. And for those that believe that she is not in competition with her husband, to put a 2 in the chat, please. Again, if you agree that she is probably in the place that she's in and making some of these statements that she's making because there is a secret competitive spirit going on between her and her husband. If you could put a 1 in the chat, and a 2 if you don't really align with that statement. Now, this is what I believe. I believe that her stance absolutely embodies feminist principles. Absolutely. Because in one breath, you can't say that you are, not saying that she said it, but her behavior has exemplified it, especially when they were on the main stage in the White House. As far as a family unit, you go from a traditional wife to saying, okay, I believe, and I feel like I even will go as far as to say I have some regrets, and that there was a lot of cruelty and a lot of behind the scenes stuff that was going on that I couldn't speak of then, but I am speaking on it now, and it's not really looked upon as being favorable. It's not looked upon as being popular. And it definitely, if nothing else, it has opened up a whole nother window of conversation. Okay, so O Speak says that they haven't lived together in months. That competition is over, but I believe she was. Okay, I respect it. Nobody else is going to give me an opinion on whether they believe that she is in competition or has been in competition with her husband as to why this entire podcast is taking place. You know, looking at her facial expressions, I definitely don't see happiness. I don't see peace. I see that there's possibly work being done and she's digging beneath the surface and it's a process. But at this point, if I was to say that she is at that place, I would say no. And I do believe that her current stance embodies feminist principles. I believe that she is advocating for women's rights to make choices that prioritize their health and happiness. And it doesn't include the family core unit, the nuclear family, the very family image that she participated in showing the world on the main stage for over almost 2 decades. And now everybody is supposed to dismantle that, unlearn and relearn where she is now. And it's supposed to go down easy. It's supposed to be easily digested. I believe her experiences as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, help her form her perspective, emphasizing that self-care is not only acceptable, but necessary. Look at the reach that she has. Look at how many people value every word that comes out of her mouth. She can single-handedly change the trajectory. I don't know if that's what she's doing or not. But if I can see she has that capability and that reach, then you know she sees it. What message is that sending to a generation of women that already believe largely that they don't need a man, they don't want a man, they don't even need a father in the home to raise the kids. All they need is the contribution of their seed, and they'll take it from here. I was done. I was thrown when the abortion clinics were, or the unaliving clinics were put outside of the venues for the rallies that was being supported. I knew that her trajectory and her perspective on family, on the nuclear family, had definitely shifted when she got up and she spoke And she basically iterated that you need to get out there and vote, even if it means lying to your husband to do it. There's a lot of hypocrisy in her statements, which could be a reason why she is under such fire by many. Because what you planted your seed as, it's not growing up as, it's not growing out. By sharing her journey, she's also encouraging other people to recognize the value in setting boundaries and making decisions that honor their individual needs. Yeah, you're an individual, but your identity and your purpose for most of your life, whether you like it, whether you're happy with it or not, how it unfolded, what resulted as what came out as a result of it, has been in a different capacity outside of individualism. And now in your 60s, you're saying, yo, it's about me. I don't know how much time I got left, but I'm getting ready to focus on me. I done did my due diligence with my family. I've sacrificed more than anybody will ever know in my mind, my heart, and my spirit, and I deserve this. Whatever peace looks like for me, that's where I am. Do people grow apart? Do her and Barack Obama not get that same permission because of who they are? Who they have represented? This is not a cut and dry. I could easily have an opinion one way or the other, and I have my opinions, but it's not a one size fits all. So I want to go to the poll real quick, and I posed the question: is self-care being used today as an excuse to neglect important responsibilities? So the options were yes, too often, no, it's necessary, and sometimes it depends on the person. So we got 52%, we got 29 votes, and we got 52% that are saying yes, too often self-care is being used today as an excuse to neglect important responsibilities. Interesting. I'm glad. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. I appreciate everybody that absolutely participated in the poll. And I was curious. I was just curious as to, as a whole, what do we believe our perspective is on self-care? And just because we may check out or we may prioritize what we have going on for that particular moment, so we can be in a place to continue to give, to continue to sacrifice, to continue to reciprocate based off of our relationships. Sometimes you got to check out. Sometimes you have to say no. Speaking of no, I want to show this one clip. I thought this is definitely in the same podcast, but I thought this was powerful because we can apply this to every aspect of our lives, and everybody can benefit from it. Let's look at this real quick.
Better learn the word no.
Yeah.
Well, I know this hits both of you in a different way or in a similar way.
Well, you embarked upon an interesting journey to find your peace recently. Can you share some of your tools for trying to find that peace?
Well, I'll tell you this. No is my favorite word.
Yeah.
No. No is. And I found out how powerful no is, especially in this town. This is a town of yes. Yes, men. Yes, I'll do it. Yes, whatever you need. Just make me a star. You know? Make me rich. You know? But no is so powerful because that is you taking up for yourself.
Right.
No, I don't feel like coming to dinner. No, I don't want to do that role. That doesn't serve a purpose for me. I know the check is great. Maybe that's someone else's blessing. You know what I mean? And the relief that I get from saying no, because I know I'm protecting my peace. I know I'm doing a good thing, because for a while I was the yes girl, the people pleaser, and I just couldn't do it anymore because it wasn't servicing me, and I wasn't feeling fulfilled, because why am I doing this?
I hear one word now. So something just resonated with me. That's kind of a little bit outside of what my talking point was for actually playing this clip. And it troubles my spirit when I hear somebody always talking about I, me, mine, I, me, mine, me. I feel this way. I believe this because this doesn't serve me. The power of this saying this serves my bottom line. This is what I sacrifice in order to get what I need. And I noticed that has been normalized in the sake of conversation, to the point where it is indisputed that we are living in such a narcissistic society. If you do not have narcissistic tendencies, you will be chewed up and spit out if you don't know the difference. And that's a fact, because people are so into the I and me spirit that they can't even look outside of thyself in order to consider anybody else. That's why many people will not take accountability for things that they say or do that are out of line and out of pocket nowadays. There is such an extensive lack of accountability, of personal accountability, when a person says, you know what, I'll eat that, I'll take that. You're absolutely right. I appreciate when people acknowledge their imperfections and they do it out loud, because we are imperfect out loud. Whether we like it or not, we make mistakes out loud. So if we're wrong, or if we have an error in judgment, why can't we say it out loud? My bad. I apologize. Those are two powerful words that can stop potential wars. I apologize. But that doesn't seem to be the norm anymore. And so I noticed that her language is really speaking on I, me. And I don't want it to minimize the message of the power of no, but I also don't want it to tilt over the scale to diminish the power of no either. Let's go, y'all.
I've had to cut people out of my life. It's okay. You weigh me down. I can't carry your load and mine. Family members even. Yeah. Sorry. And you don't learn that. It's unfortunate. You don't learn it until you get older. That's right. Because in your 20s, I'm ready to do it all. And even in your 30s still. But as I'll say about 45, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. That doesn't serve me. Yeah. That doesn't make me happy inside. And if I say yes, that person's happy, but then I'm left to carry something that doesn't feel comfortable to me.
Yeah. How have you shared this with your young son? And I say young because 30 is still young.
Yeah, very young.
Do you encourage him to therapy? Because I'll tell you, you know how black men are with their, we ain't really feeling the therapy thing.
Like, no, he's not like that at all.
Oh, that's great, because we need to educate our young black men that therapy is a good thing.
We go to therapy together. You think a mother-son relationship is easy?
Yes.
Without a dad?
That's right.
Yeah.
It's not. All relationships need work. Even the relationships with my girlfriends, we get in our little stuff sometimes, but, we're in a place where we're all in therapy.
Wow. Okay. So, this is a moment where chew to spit the meat and spit out the bones, because I got my personal thoughts on what she's saying. Now, there's nothing wrong with therapy. There's nothing wrong. There's definitely power in acknowledging that the dynamic of relationships in general, and to go further, certain relationships, like she spoke on her and her son's relationship. You think that that's easy? No, it's not. I don't think any relationship is per se easy, especially when you got time in, when you got investment in. You're not going to agree. There's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be adversity, and that relationship is going to be tried, period. And it's going to be tried and true the longer you are in that relationship. But let's talk about the power of no and some of the things that it can yield, the easier it is to come forth from the mouth with intention behind it and meaning behind it. When you say no, you need to stand in it. It can yield self-respect. So saying no can protect your energy, and it can also show that you value yourself enough not to stretch beyond your limits just to please others. That's a big one for me, right? When you are a giver, you want to give. But it's easy when you are a giver to stretch yourself beyond your capacity. And then you got to be careful not to become a martyr, which means do it, but you're doing it in vain. And now you're feeling some type of way because you did it, but you don't feel good about doing it. Whether you don't feel appreciated, whether you didn't get out of it what you thought you were going to get out of it, or it just didn't make you feel what you normally feel when you have those types of interactions in giving. One thing I really appreciate about the power of the word no is it establishes clear boundaries. I believe it creates a healthy line between what you will and won't allow. Basically, you teach people how to treat you without confusion. When you say no, again, it is a complete sentence. It's a paragraph. It's a chapter. It's a beginning. It's an end. It's a punctuation at the end. Right? For me, learning how to utilize in its proper context the word no has granted me emotional freedom. I don't feel guilty. There are times where every now and again I will, but I get over it. Because you can be overcommitted. But when you say no authentically, it allows you to move and live from a place of truth and not obligation. Especially the older you get, the less you want to be obligated to. Because you've spent a lot of your formidable years, at least a lot of people have, in your formidable years, feeling obligated to things, whether they served you, whether they didn't. You felt that was the par for the course. And believe it or not, the last thing I'm going to mention, and we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up, when it comes to the power of the word no, is, believe it or not, it strengthens relationships. Saying no can build real relationships based on mutual respect and not silent sacrifice. It separates those that are meant for you, those that honor your boundaries, and those that won't punish you for them. So I know we went all over the place when it came to the talking points, but that was intentional. That was absolutely intentional, because I don't believe that there's a one size fits all when it comes to self-care. You're going to always irritate somebody else's spirit. You're going to always do it. When you focus on yourself, other people are going to be perturbed. Other people are going to make assumptions. Other people are going to create and spin certain narratives. So if you can find peace with your decisions in the midst of all of that, then you've achieved your goal, right? And yeah, so I appreciate everybody coming through. I definitely didn't belabor. However, again, my opinion and how I viewed certain aspects of her podcast and that particular topic. Self-care is not to be taken lightly. I do believe that there's a stigma when it comes to women, particularly Black women. Black women tend to be categorized as being one of the strongest species of females. Therefore, they can take more. They can do more. They can be more. Therefore, people expect more. But is that fair? Is it just? And is it even across the board? Because like she said, compared to her white counterpart, her white female counterparts, she's less light. More she feels she has had to consider and still does. And now that she's openly and publicly making adjustments in her life that are less favorable than the example that we are known for her to set through her behavior and her decisions, including her family and keeping them first. Now she's wondering why we are looking at her with question marks all around her head. It's like, okay, so we respect it to a degree, but what brought this on and why such a drastic turn of events? Because again, your impact is large and wide. So there is a responsibility for us to be mindful of what we say, how we say it, our intention in saying it, because we have to consider how far that reach goes, in my opinion. In my opinion. So, with that being said, I just want to conclude by saying this reminds me that all of us that exercise self-care is necessary, especially for those that have given so much for so long, because we can't pour from an empty cup. But it's important to balance both sides. While it's important to be accountable and responsible, it is equally vital to protect your peace and prioritize your well-being. And I think the part that we have missed, or some of us have missed, is that both can actually coexist with intentionality. So if y'all don't mind, I would love for there to be a conversation started in the comments. Drop a comment below. How do you feel about Michelle choosing herself? Have you ever been criticized for putting yourself first? If you enjoy honest, balanced conversations like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I got more real talk coming soon. I appreciate everybody, and I'll see you next time. Peace.